All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to Discover Your Best Self podcast. I'm really excited today because we have Dr. Pasha Carter, and she is amazing, you guys. She is an expert panel on for Forbes. And so I want to go ahead and turn it over to her. And the first question that we have for you, Dr. Carter, is why did you decide to be a part of the podcast?
Well, anytime that I see young women like yourself that are doing big things and starting your business, venturing out as an entrepreneur, my first thought is how can I support? How can I help? How can I serve? Because when I first got started in business, there were individuals who, if it weren't for them stepping in and helping and teaching me and leading me and giving me opportunities, I wouldn't be where I am today. So when I saw you and I saw what you were doing, it was like, oh, okay, I would love to be a part of anything that you're doing.
Yes, thank you so much. That means a lot because we need people like that who are willing to, reach back and be a part of, people wanting to do more. And so, tell us where you're from and who you are.
Well, I'm originally from Montgomery, Alabama. That's where I was born and raised. Today I reside in Dallas, Texas, which I absolutely love it here. I
Okay.
absolutely love Dallas. I've been here for about 11 years. I'm a mom of four. I have
Okay.
four amazing children, ages 8, 10, 13, and 15. So I'm quite busy. But I have a wonderful husband and business partner to balance that out. My husband and I have known each other for over 23 years
Oh
and
wow.
have been partners. So we've been working full time together for 20 plus years. And so it makes it all worth
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
it.
I'm like, I when I saw your family pictures, I was like, wow, like she is doing everything. And so my thought was, how are you able to, grow your business and keep doing all these new things? And part of it I feel like is because you have like a work life integration, with your husband and your family. But tell us, what is it about having, do you have a balance and how do you work it out?
Well, interesting you said it, and this is amazingly the main question that I get asked on every interview, the balance question. And I always shock people when I say I don't believe in balance. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't. I feel I learned many, many years ago because I used to chase balance, and I knew so many women that would chase balance, and I just feel it's overrated. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's about being effective versus being balanced.
Right.
And so my husband and I, the way that we look at our family, we run it like a fun business. So, it's one of those things where yes, we have multiple children with multiple activities, but we understand and we talk to our children about everything. So they understand, hey, listen, we may not be able to make every event, but
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to make some mistakes along the way, but that's a part of growing. And
Mm-hmm.
we encourage our children to make mistakes. We encourage them to fail. Our whole thing is we're not going to be balanced. Everything's not going to be perfect, and nor should we expect it to be perfect.
Right, right, right. I love how you say that because it's so true. Um, like you said, it's more about being effective. And I have a young daughter, and I think that the things that you're telling your children, those are some things that I would repeat to her. I think that those are really important. So tell us, what exactly is the VIP network?
Oh, wow. So the VIP network is something that my husband and I started many, many years ago when we became entrepreneurs. Because when we became entrepreneurs and we started to have success, we realized that, oh my goodness, we've got to create like an incubator where there are entrepreneurs around the world that can come together. Ask questions, grow together, be able to make lifelong connections.
Mm-hmm.
And so we created the VIP network. And what the VIP network does is it brings entrepreneurs from all around the world together. We create leadership trainings for them. So whether they have a small business, a direct sales business, or if they have a mom and pop shop, it doesn't matter. Most of the fundamental skills that we need to succeed are the same. So
Mm-hmm.
we're able to, through our coaching and through our leadership trainings, really take those individuals who may not be having the success they want to have, or
Mhm.
maybe they've had a lot of success and they've kind of capped out and they've reached a plateau, and they're trying to figure out, how do I break through? How do I go from, if they're at a half a million, to growing their business to a $10 million business,
Mhm.
or a $50 million business? How do you do that? Because all of those different tasks are different, and you have to have and come with different tools to be able to achieve whatever that is. So when we have individuals, we're able to bounce off of each other. So
Mhm.
someone may have a business that may cater maybe in real estate, someone else may be in investing, but we're able to bounce off each other and say, hey, how did you do that? Who connected you with that person? And we're always open to serving. That's one of the most important things, that if I were to get anything across on an interview, for me, I learned many, many years ago that when a door opens for you, if
Mhm.
you can just keep that door open for about 10 or 15 more people, trust me when I say it feels a lot better. The challenge with a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, is that we feel, if we have an opportunity, if
Mhm.
we share it with someone else, that means it's less of an opportunity there for us. And
Mhm.
it's the exact opposite. So anytime I do anything, whether it's being on the cover of a magazine or doing a TV show, my
Mhm.
question when I finish is, would you mind if I refer a few people to you? And then
Mhm.
I'll pick people that I know are looking for opportunities and looking for connections, and I'll connect those two.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so before you started the VIP network and became an entrepreneur, what was your path before all of that? Like, how did that transpire?
Well, I was 23 years old when I started as my entrepreneurial journey.
Okay.
So at that time, I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'd fallen on tough times, what I'd say, because I was trying to find myself. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
So at that time, living in Atlanta, I was working at Emory. Hold on one second. I was working at Emory University.
Mhm.
I was also a gymnastics coach in the evening. So I coached for 3, 4 hours in the evenings. And then I was an Atlanta Falcons cheerleader. So I was doing all of this.
Uh-huh.
So NFL cheerleader, gymnastics coach, and then working at Emory University during the day, full time, Monday through Friday. So I was really burnt out.
Mhm.
I was not financially stable. I
Mhm.
was sleeping on the floor of my best friend's one-bedroom apartment because I was just trying to figure out how to make ends meet. And I was so tired.
Mhm.
And I never forget, I was invited out to a meeting in the middle of the day,
Mhm.
in Marietta, Georgia. And I walked into this room, and it was a small room, but it was filled with entrepreneurs. And when I tell you the language that they spoke, they talked about residual income. They talked about retiring early.
Mhm.
They talked about, unlimited income and building $1 million businesses. I've never heard anybody talk that way. I was used to, hey, get a job that pays a little more or work
Mhm.
a little harder. That's what I was used to. And their language was totally different. And I was completely intrigued.
Mhm.
That's the day that I started out my entrepreneurial journey.
Okay. Yeah. It's almost like you have to get beat up first before
Right?
before you can.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And so when you started, when you had the opportunity to write for Forbes Magazine, how was that process? Like, how was that introduced to you? Because, that was the one of the things that stood out to me. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. How does someone get that type of opportunity and grow that? And what has that effect been on your business?
Well, that's a great question. And that goes back to my very first, when I talked about sharing those connections.
Mm-hmm.
So, the way that Forbes, when I got a phone call from Forbes asking me to be on the expert panel, it was because someone had referred me.
Wow.
And as a matter of fact, multiple people had referred me. But those people who had referred me, I'd referred them to different things in the past as well.
Mm.
So that's what happens. It's like when you open up your space in your heart and you say, you know what? How can I, if there's something that's good for me, how can I bless somebody else with that? And when you live your life like that, it comes back around. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have to reach out to Forbes. Forbes reached out to me because those individuals that were already a part of that,
Wow.
they said, you know what, why don't you get in touch with Pasha Carter? And
Mm-hmm.
because this is what she's doing and blah, blah, blah. And that's how it happened.
Oh, wow. So, what's the impact that that's had on your other businesses or even on your life?
It's been great because it takes your credibility
Mm-hmm.
to another level. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what it also does? It opens up a world that where you're able to really look behind the curtain and really see what's going on in the entrepreneur space for me,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the part of Forbes that I'm a part of, leadership and entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows me to have connections that I would not have had. And for my business, it has allowed me to be able to step into a space that most people aspire to be. You know, when you're young and you're an entrepreneur, we all read Forbes magazine. You know,
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants to know, okay, what's going on in Forbes, because, you know, they bring together the top leaders in the world, the top entrepreneurs in the world, the top CEOs in the world, and, you know, do interviews and highlight them. And so becoming a part of that just really took all my businesses to another level,
Mm-hmm.
because anytime someone sees Forbes and they know you're attached to it, it's already a foot in the door.
Right. Right, right. So, in your most recent article, I saw that you had the steps an entrepreneur can take to build a successful brand.
Yes.
How did you come up with those steps? Were those things that you had to do in your business?
Yes. You know what? Every article that I write in Forbes is always based on something that I have done, you know.
Okay.
So I like to always make sure that it's authentic, that is real, that is, you know, not something that you read and say, oh, that sounds good, because
Mm-hmm.
I want it to come from a space of authenticity. So if these things have worked for me, it's like, oh, okay, this is some things that I did. This is what I do, and this works. And I'll put it down and structure it. So that's how I'm able to write all my articles, is always based on a path that I've taken, or a path that I've coached someone else through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, what I guess if you could point out the two top ones, which two steps or couple steps would you
I wrote that
give?
article so long ago. I'm trying to remember what the steps were. So if you could remind me of the steps that I put in there, then, because I know I have a lot of different. Which ones were they?
Well, I guess I'll have to go back to it. But it's on your LinkedIn page, and
Uh
so
huh.
I did enjoy it
I've
though.
written so many articles, so I'm trying to figure out the steps to that one particular article.
Okay, well we'll go ahead. We'll bypass them.
Okay.
But question. So I know you were talking about how you like to give back, and that's been a part of how you've been able to grow your business. But what does it mean to you to be an influencer?
You know, I think the word influencer, it means to influence, to inspire, to take someone and help them, in my opinion, become better with you than without you. I know today influencer, the term means more, you know, a person who has a lot of followers. So the term has a lot of different meanings. But for me personally, being an influencer, it comes with a lot of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with saying, okay, if you've gotten to this point where people hold you in a certain regard and people look up to you, what are you going to do with that platform?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's always been, how many people can I pull up here with me?
Mm-hmm.
How many more doors can I open? How many more doors can I knock down? You know, being an African American, being a woman, there are many, many, many doors that, believe it or not, in 2019 are still not open for us. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, my whole, you know, journey is opening those doors
Mm-hmm.
so that women like yourself
Mm-hmm.
can walk through those doors and have those opportunities that are global opportunities, and not just operate our business and our lives in our communities or just in our neighborhoods, because there's so much talent that are in the small areas, and many people could be global and have global businesses, and be able to really impact people globally, but they just have not yet had the opportunities and the connections to do so.
Mm. So, what kind of advice would you give someone where they feel like they're struggling, or they're like, "Man, I have all this talent. I'm doing all these things. I feel like no one's giving me a break or opportunity. What can they do?"
Go big. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta go big. You know, there's an old saying, go big or go home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the challenge with most people, and I know that because this is what I did, you know, you stay in your safe zone. So if you're good at something, you just want to do that, and you want to do it enough, just enough to where you feel like, oh, it's great, because a lot of times we're afraid of, you know, people and what they will say. It's an ugly world out there. There are a lot
Mhm.
of trolls. There are a lot of people on social media that if they see you succeeding, they want to pull you down. And
Mhm.
that's a part of the journey. And so I think sometimes we shrink. Sometimes we stop ourselves from soaring because
Mhm.
we don't want to hear the naysayers. But for me, it's about going big. So it's about trying new things. I was just having a conversation with
Mhm.
another entrepreneur. This was just last night at our Christmas party. And she's, I think, like 24, just started out on her entrepreneurial journey. And I was telling her, don't shrink.
Mhm.
She was telling me that her dad doesn't support her and how
Mhm.
that's hurting her. And she's just not sure, how far she wants to try her business. I said, listen, until you get comfortable with failing publicly,
Mm.
until you get comfortable and you embrace daily mistakes,
Mhm.
you're never going to succeed,
Mhm.
because failure is a part of success.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that is most people's biggest challenge, is they want to be perfect. They have
Right.
this perfectionist thing. And me, I tell my kids every single day, one thing you can be sure about your mom is I'm going to make a lot of mistakes.
Mhm.
I'm going to fail. And when I make those mistakes, I'm the kind of mom where I'm going to own it. I'm going to look my child and I say, you know what? I'm sorry, mommy was wrong on that. But
Right.
most people want to be right versus understanding that it's a journey, and mistakes and failure is a beautiful thing because you learn from them and you grow from them. If you're not
Mhm.
doing it, then you're not growing and you're in the same place. I want to tell you a quick story.
Sure.
When I was a competitive gymnast, my coach was off one day, so we had a sub coach that came in that day, and I was training for the Junior Olympics at that time.
Mhm.
And so when he came back, he'd been off on a meet with some other girls, and he came back. He said, "How was your practice?" I said, "Oh my God, I had the perfect practice. I hit everything. It was great." And I'm ready for him to like
Mhm.
pat me on the back and give me all these accolades. And he paused for a minute, and in his silence, he just looked at me and he shook his head and he said, mm. He says, "All that means is that you didn't push yourself."
Mm.
Says, "And I want the Pasha that's going to push herself. I don't want you just doing a full because you're used to it and you can land it perfectly. Now
Mhm.
it's time to throw a double. When you get the double, now it's time to add something to it." And
Mhm.
that day, it changed. It really set in because I was thinking, oh, it's just about doing the things that I know how to do and perfecting those small
Mhm.
things. So my coach, he was like, no, if you want to be the best, it's about taking what you're doing and stretching it and being
Mhm.
willing to land on your bottom, being willing to fall off the balance beam,
Mhm.
being willing to do all of those things that leads you to being able to do the moves that most people don't
Right.
know how to do.
That's really important because when you get comfortable, you're like, "Oh, I'm doing well. I'm making decent money." And then when you have to take it up another notch, it kind of hurts. Like that stretch doesn't feel good. And so it's just like, I feel like, a lot of the people that I talk to who are, either impactful or influential or on this journey to keep moving, a lot of them have a sports background or some type of competitive edge. How do you correlate that? I think it's a big advantage when you do get to play sports when you're young.
I think one of the most important things that a parent can do for a child is to put them in competitive sports.
Mhm.
And I'm an example of that. And let me tell you why. The one thing when you get in competitive sports that it teaches you is discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline. And most people, especially in 2019, this is the year or the decade of the microwave mentality,
Oh my
that
gosh.
overnight success. Everybody wants to be insta famous,
Mhm.
so it's one of those things where hard work and dedication, most people don't understand that if they're not
Mhm.
taught that. And that's the one thing in sports that you cannot get around. If you want to be an amazing tennis player, you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to get up there early. You're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to be
Mhm.
disciplined with your diet. You're going to have to be disciplined with your craft. You're going to have to be disciplined and go to the gym, all of those things. And when you start that out at a young age with a child and they're able now
Mhm.
have that discipline, and that's a part of who they are and a part of their
Mhm.
psyche, they bring that now into their adulthood.
Right, right. Because now you're used to it. You're like, "Oh, I've been doing this since I've been 6, 7. I know."
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've been competing. I was I was having a conversation at one of my son's basketball games. the other day, and his son was a part of a league that we're no longer a part of.
Mm.
And I said, I don't know where this whole everybody gets a trophy thing
Oh my
came from in
gosh.
the participation trophy world. You just you get a trophy because you showed up, because everybody wants everybody to feel good. Now
Mm.
I believe in making people feel good, but I don't allow my children to accept participation trophies. You don't get a trophy just because you showed up.
Mhm.
I want you to get a trophy and be awarded because you got out there and you did your best. You
Right.
went for it. You won. You know what I mean? Because that's what's going to happen in life. When you show up, whether it's a job or whether it's your business, just because you show up at the office, they're not going to pay you. You got to then work. You got to be the best if you want to stay, if you want to get promoted. If you're an entrepreneur, you can't just say, oh, you know what, I'm just going to start my business, and then everybody's just going to come knocking on your door. That's not how it works.
Right.
You've got to go out there and you've got to give your all. You got to put everything you have in it. You've got to make mistakes. You've got to, when you get down, you've got to pull yourself back up, and you've got to work through the pain, all of those things. If you don't learn that at a young age and you
Mhm.
start rewarding kids because you don't want them to feel bad,
Mhm.
what happens is you cripple them when they become adults, because that's what they expect, and that's just not reality.
Right, right, right. I see a lot of that at work. But yes, I totally agree. I grew up um, running track, and that was very hard.
Mhm.
So I totally understand. I remember the first practice we had, and there were two girls, and they're like, well, we're just doing it so we can kind of be in shape. And when the coach really started like telling them, he was like, look, this is a competitive sport. You're gonna be here or you're not. So they didn't
Right.
come back. And so,
See?
yeah, and so we don't have time for this, and it really does pull a lot out of you, because the days when you're tired and you don't feel like pushing, it makes you go for it.
Right.
Um,
And you know what else too? Just like sports, like take that track analogy. What makes a track star a better track star
mm-hmm.
is being amongst other people that are just as good or better than them that they race against.
Yes.
So, like those two young ladies who were just in it because, of whatever, they just want to, have some fun, lose a little weight, or get some exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a totally different ball game. But if you're that serious person, you're going to want to be around those people that are going to push you. That if you're running a 4 or whatever your race is,
Mm-hmm.
and you have your number and they're running faster than you, well, you want to be able to run with them, or if you're a boxer, you want to be able to spar with the greatest. And it's the same thing in business. You
Yes.
have got to create a circle of people that are just like you,
Mm-hmm.
or people that are lifting you up. If your
Mm-hmm.
circle right now, if you're the smartest person in your circle, if you make the most money in your circle, if you have the most vision in your circle, you need a new circle. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm always surrounding myself with people that are better, wiser, have made more, earned more. I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people, if a person who makes $100,000 a year can't teach you how to make 101,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise they'd be doing it. So for me, if you want to take a business and you want to go from 10 million to 100 million, you got to
Mm-hmm.
hang around some $100 million people,
Mm.
because what they do and their thought process and their
Different.
connections and their actions, something they've done has been different from what the $10 million person has done.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you? How do you define success?
I define success for me as freedom.
Mm.
Um, I always knew at a very young age I was not cut out to work for someone.
Mm.
I knew that at a very young age,
Why is that?
because when okay, so let me tell you a story. All right, so when I was 16 years old, I got my first job at a fast food restaurant called Wendy's.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there and I worked my way up to fries, and I was about to go to the register and all of this stuff, right? So I'm 16 and I'm working at Wendy's. You know what most 16-year-olds do, because I'm, wanting a car and all that
Right.
good stuff, right? And so one day a concert came to town, Montgomery, Alabama. And back then it was a concert, and it was a group called Salt and Pepper, right? I will never forget this. I remember it like it was yesterday. So I called in to my boss to tell him the date, to let him know that I couldn't make it because, it's a Salt and Pepper concert, right? And I will never forget him telling me that, no, you have to work. And I was thinking, don't you realize what I just said? I said Salt and Pepper. So I could not understand, like, why can't I get off?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time that I realized, oh my God, somebody else can tell me when I can come and go. And just for the record, I got fired. So I got because of course I chose to go to the Salt and Pepper concert. So and so that was my first job. I got fired. And what that did for me, it made me say, wow, as I get older, is this what corporate America is like? So I started talking to people and people who were in corporate America, people who were working, and some of them just loved the fact that they had security and they didn't mind that kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, the way that I'm wired, I didn't want anybody telling me when I could go on vacation or telling me, if I could go up to the school when my kid's sick and take them home because I
Mm-hmm.
had to be somewhere building their dreams and goals. So that's when the next summer, instead of working a job, I started doing parties. And what I would do is I would throw a party and I would have about 500 teenagers show up, charge them $10 at a place that I got for free. And then, I have a DJ come in. And in one night, I would make enough money to hold me throughout the summer. So in one night, I'd make more money than most of my friends who were working the whole summer at the Wendy's and the Burger King. And then that's when I said, oh my God, there's something to this entrepreneur thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized the power of being able to have something that you control.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was just magical. It was magical being able to take something from nothing and create an income just off an idea. And that's the
Right.
true essence of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's really interesting that you said that, do you think that some people have it or they don't? Because, I'm listening to you and you're like, my friends, they were working and I decided to do this, and everyone's not going to think that. They're just going to say, hey, well, maybe I need to work 20 more hours this week to get a little bit more money. You're like, no, I'm going to create a whole concept where I can make more money in 2 hours. Like, it's different, and so everyone doesn't have that spirit or that energy or even that thought process. um, and so what are your thoughts on, even if people want to be at a certain level or whatnot, how do you change, your paradigm, your shift, your mindset?
Well, you have to find out what's really important to you because when I first was a young, naive entrepreneur, I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And my whole goal in life was to share with people and teach them why they should be an entrepreneur. And then one day I realized that everybody is not wired like me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the beauty of God's grace
Mm-hmm.
because God didn't create us all the same. So there's some of us that are more wired to where they are truly happy showing up and knowing what they're going to make, knowing that they have a certain amount of income, even if it's not a whole lot, but
Mm-hmm.
they're just happy knowing what it is. And they're happy just being able to cover those bills and get by.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they come home, they leave all their work at the office and just, go to the bar, enjoy themselves. And that's okay for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are people that are wired like myself or like my husband, where our whole goal is how can we go to the next level? How can we create more revenue? How can we create another business? How can we do this? How can we do this? How can we leave a legacy? So we're wired differently as well. And there's some people who look at our work ethic because I always say entrepreneurs, we're the only crazy people that would rather work 18 hours for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves than 8 hours for someone else,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not easy. It's one of those things where you have to put in the work. But I'd rather do this any day because for me, being able to have my office at home, work from home for the past 20, it's been 23 years
Mm.
now that my husband nor myself have punched a clock for anyone. We work for ourselves. We've been in the top 3% of money earners in the world for decades. And has it been easy? No,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely not. But has it been worth it? Absolutely, yes. I
Mm-hmm.
can't think of anything that I would rather be a part of than
Mm-hmm.
being an entrepreneur, especially in the main space where we made the bulk of our revenue, which is direct sales and network marketing, because that's a space where anyone can start a business. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't take hundreds of thousands of dollars to get started,
Mm-hmm.
but you can start a business and build a business and have that freedom and flexibility
Mm-hmm.
because of the way that is structured and set up.
Yeah, the network marketing is interesting. I've done some network marketing, and I remember when I first started out, people would be like, "What are you selling? Why are you always doing something?" And I was so confused because I'm like, "Well, is doing something bad? I don't understand. And so, and it changes, oh, I might be doing this or selling this or whatever it is, but what I learned in network marketing are some of the same sales and marketing tactics that I use to this day. And,
Right.
it's just they really help you dig into your network of people and how you can extract, information or learn how to, really make money from the people that you're around.
Right.
And I didn't learn that anywhere else but there when I first started out. And so that's how I learned how to build my center of influences. And they show you exactly how to do that. And you're not
Mhm.
learning that in school.
Oh no.
So, if you're not going to business school, and even in business school, I don't know, I didn't do business school, but I'm certain that that's not how they're doing it because you don't have anything that's making you go out to make the money. So,
Mhm.
one of the questions I have for you is how much of what you do is sales oriented? Because I feel like we're always in sales, well, no matter what you're doing, and people have to buy you.
Yes. Well, here's an interesting thing. I did an event about a month ago, and I was talking about how we as Americans in a society, we've been trained and mentally programmed to be consumers. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
And that's been a strategic move to set up a world where we love to consume. Let me
Mm-hmm.
give you an example. I bet those same people who shunned you for selling something were probably the first ones in line for Black Friday or on the
Mm-hmm.
computer for Cyber
Right.
Monday, because we've been programmed and we celebrate
Mm-hmm.
buying. We
Mm-hmm.
celebrate consuming.
Mm-hmm.
So when that friend shows up with that brand new Louis bag, everybody's like, oh my gosh, that is such a beautiful purse. Where did you get that from? And the purse may cost more than the person has in the purse.
Mm-hmm.
And when the person drives up with a new car, we all celebrate and go, oh my God, what a beautiful car. But when someone is a car salesman and they're
Mm-hmm.
selling the same car that the person showed up in, people are like, "Ooh, I don't like car salesmen." The whole sleazy car salesman
Right.
thing, and they're the ones that's making the commission off the car.
Right.
So there's two types of people in the world, and you're either the person who is making the money
Mm-hmm.
because someone's buying from you, or you're the person that's buying.
Right.
And for me, I would rather be on the side of being the person that's making the money. I don't
Exactly.
want to be the consumer. And as African Americans, we have the lowest income out of all the races, but yet we're the greatest consumers.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been programmed in us that we would rather look rich than become rich.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole um, goal is to really teach our community and our young people the importance of being able to create wealth and leave the next generation better,
Mm-hmm.
stronger,
Mm-hmm.
wiser because of who we are, what we stood for, and the things that we've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Um, agree 100%. Um, so, question. I just wanted to go back to this real quick. Um, I know you explained, you getting into being on the panel for Forbes, but what exactly is the Forbes Coaches Council and how does that work?
So the Forbes Coaches Council is we're a group of individuals where we write for Forbes. We coach different people. So our coaching programs, like for me, I have a coaching program, and that coaching program may be sent out to people who contact Forbes. And if they're looking for a business coach or they're looking for a leadership coach, I'd be a part of that. So that's really what the Coaches Council is, and they're very, very their interview process. You have to have a certain amount of years. You have to go through this strenuous, and even if you've been recommended, it doesn't even matter. You
Mm-hmm.
have to go through this strenuous interview process
Mm-hmm.
in order for them to feel comfortable putting their stamp on your brand.
Oh, wow. That's really honorable. That's nice. Um, question. So, what, and this is our last question,
Oh,
what,
oh, you're fine.
what does it mean to you to discover your best self?
You know what? I think that's no, not I think. I know that is one of the most important things that a person can do, because when you discover your best self, and what that really means to me is that's an That's an inward success. There's outward success and then there's inward success. That's
Mm.
inward success because, and it's different for everybody. So even with my children, I'm always asking them, who are you really? Like not who are your friends, not what is the trend.
Mm.
No, are you
Mhm.
and what do you want to be, what do you want to do? And all my kids, even though they were raised in the same household, they are completely different. They all want different things, they're all wired differently,
Mhm.
and I embrace that and I encourage that because I don't want carbon copies out there. I want
Right.
them to be their unique selves. So like I have a 13-year-old daughter, she's very creative. um, she's in the gifted and talented program at her school, and her whole, I know without a shadow of a doubt that she's going to do something, like something big where it's changing the
Mhm.
world's environment, or just being a beacon of light to helping solve big earth crises. That's how
Mhm.
she's wired. We can't, if we have a plastic straw in our house, she's like, you know, mom, really, you're killing the turtles, but you know, she has a big heart, and I can see her, traveling the world and solving world hunger or something
Mhm.
like that. I really, but then I have another daughter who's older than her, and she spends the majority of her time doing selfies on Instagram. And,
Mhm.
so I could see her doing some kind of skincare line. She's a model and has signed with an agency here, does commercials and stuff like that. And she's comfortable in that space and she loves it and she's good at it.
Mhm.
So they're totally different. But my job as a mom is to encourage them in their differences to be the best and to pull out the best. If you want to be a model, then you need to figure out how to be the best. If you want to have your own skincare line, get the best products, figure out how you can market it the best, all that kind of stuff. So whatever it is that they're doing, when you talk about discovering your best
Mhm.
self, that's the key to happiness. And I think so many people are being someone that they think people expect them to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
Versus who they really want to be.
Mhm.
They create these stories on Facebook and Instagram because we want the world to look at us as successful.
Right.
And many people post this happy picture and they're miserable.
Yeah.
So I always think the most important thing is you've got to get within yourself and find your passion and your purpose and discover your real self and bring out the best in you,
Mhm.
because that's what really leads to authentic happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that answer, and even how you explain the differences between, your two daughters. Because everyone is different, and so my best self is
Mhm.
not going to be what you perceive for yourself. Um,
Exactly.
and so the meaning and the reason why I want to interview people like yourself is to learn your story and your journey, and what your continuous journey is, because we all have a story, and through those stories, that's how we learn, that's how we get better. And just like you said, your circle and the people that you're around, if they're not better than me, then I'm not able to better myself. So I
Right.
really, really appreciate you taking out the time. I know you're super busy, and I was able to get on your calendar finally and lock down
Anytime.
today.
Yes, yes. And I just want to tell you to keep doing what you're doing. I am so very proud of you. And from one entrepreneur to another, I want you to know that you're going to go through tough times and embrace those tough times.
Mhm.
Find those people in your circle that when the times get hard, they're not going to say, I told you so. They're going to say, girl, we're going to get through this together,
Mhm.
because those are the kind of people that you need. Even, and it doesn't have to be a big circle, it can be two people, it could be one person,
Right.
but you can always count on that person to be the one to encourage you. And every entrepreneur deserves to have that kind of person in their lives.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Thank you, thank you. And so, Dr. Pasha, how can people find you?
Well, the best way to find me is, of course, on Facebook. You can go to Pasha Carter Official on Facebook, or you can go to my website, which is very easy, which is my name, PashaCarter.com. That's PASHA Carter.com.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Denise.